What is going on, you guys? For this episode of the rocknecast, we're going to cover the latest research on Tongkat Ali, the Malaysian aphrodisiac. Yes, we're going to do episode 2 on this potent herb, not necessarily addressing the most immediate thing that you would think it would be used for, but all of the medical benefits as it relates to increasing and optimizing your testosterone if you're a dude. And in particular, if you're a dude that suffers from hypogonadism, or if you're an otherwise healthy male, you can still benefit from Tongkat Ali. So for this episode, I am going to review with you a meta-analysis from August of 2022. So it's brand new research out of the Lithuanian medical journal Medicina. It's from Lithuania, but it's still really good. I'm going to reemphasize to you the why question, why this is so important. Do a little bit of detour in terms of a rant on allopathic medicine. So I'm going to get a little political and give a little nudge to some of you doctors out there. And also affirm you too, so don't get too worked up before you listen to it. I'm going to reemphasize the results in my previous episode of Tongkat Ali and remind you how about I learned about Tongkat Ali. So, for those of you who have followed the Rocky Cast, last spring I did an episode on Tongkat Ali, and I did a 30-day experiment. And I'll just give you the results now. In 30 days, I took 1,200 milligrams of Tongkat Ali every day, and I improved my push-ups by 7, from 25 to 32. And I was doing push-ups every day. And I described it as a wildly scientific examination of the power of Tongkat Ali. And I reminded you how I learned about it. And, I learned about it from my man crush, Andrew Huberman, who I saw on Rogan. And he talked about, ways to naturally increase your testosterone. And Huberman is not just some Yahoo. He's a PhD at Stanford. So he's like really smart. And so Rogan was like, yeah, man, well, what are some other ways that you can increase your testosterone? And then Andrew Huberman was like, well, you can try Tongkat Ali. It's been proven to be clinically effective. And so when he says something, you really your ears perk up and listen to it. So I thought, what the hell? I might as well try Tongkat Ali, among other reasons, because I love saying Tongkat Ali. And I got some really good results with it. I did 7 days, 30 days experiment, improved my push-ups by 7, and I put out the rocknecast. And since that rocknecast, that episode has like blown up. It is like 7 or 8 times more than any other episode in terms of total downloads. Than any of my other episodes. I've done them on US Grant, I've done them on fasting. And a lot of you don't really give a shit about US Grant or other my interests, but you clearly are interested in Tongkat Ali. And many of you might be asking, why am I pronouncing it as Tongkat Ali? Well, among other things, I just like the sound of that. I'm glad it's not called like vitamin B12 or like vitamin, and you need to take this little vitamin and you're going to get better. Called vitamin, it's like this little thing, vitamin K2 B5, and you're going to feel really good. Because I don't want to take a vitamin. I want to take Tongkat Ali. And so if you have any friends that that are, need a little boost, want to get a little stronger, increase their libido, they'll talk about Tongkat Ali. Now, the why question in terms of testosterone optimization. If you're a dude who's not a doctor or like a workout warrior, you're probably not thinking a lot about testosterone on a day-to-day basis. So I think that's the first thing we need to do here is answer the why question. I mean, who the hell cares? And you're like, oh my God, I'm getting a little blushing about talking about its properties as an aphrodisiac. Does that mean what I think it means? Yes, it does. And I'm not going to cover that topic because I get a little, it's kind of I'm not gonna talk about that. That's personal. Although I will say that it does work as advertised in that regard. But there's other ways and other things to consider in terms of testosterone. Because as this article by Medicina points out, and I'm going to talk about the credentials of some of these reporters here, because these results are incredible. But you got to listen to the end of my podcast to actually hear about what the results are. But this question of testosterone is extraordinarily important for dudes, especially middle-aged dudes and older dudes, because there's a number of different risks associated with that. And it also can be an issue relating to even younger men. You want to keep healthy testosterone levels. And so it's important to get that measured, especially if you're in middle age or older, just to kind of see where you are. Now, I have not done that yet. I am going to do that so I can do an episode where I do a before and after N of 1 study on the impact of Tongkat Ali on my serum testosterone levels. But I want you to think about this as a question because, other than the obvious things, if you're a dude, you're probably like, oh my God, I'm a dude and I have testosterone. And if you're a chick, that is otherwise a woman, you need estrogen, but testosterone is important for you too. Although for clarity purposes, I'm not talking about chicks here or women. I'm only talking about dudes. And that is cisgender dude. I mean, like dudes, like dudes that care about their testosterone level. If you're a woman, go consult Brene Brown or something. Maybe she's done an episode on estrogen optimization. But it is a significant issue for you to care about your testosterone levels. And I'll tell you why. First of all, if you have hypogonadism, that does not mean that you got small balls, okay? It just means that your testes, and we're beyond junior high people, so grow up, are not producing enough testosterone, right? So that can be a significant issue for you. And this is very much related to your sexual functioning, but not only that. So if you have lower than average testosterone production in your body, you are likely to suffer from the following: erectile dysfunction, that is, you can't get it up, reduced bone density, fatigue, and depression. These are the clinical indicators if you have below average testosterone production in your body. And it's also highly associated with obesity, cardiovascular disease, type 2 diabetes, and osteoporosis. And so in addition to those things, so those are things that can kill you, having optimal testosterone in connection with testosterone, it will allow you muscle building, appetite, deal with your anxiety, and of course, assist with your sexual functioning. And in fact, at one point in this article, they actually talk about it works so well, Tongkat Ali, that it doesn't affect your ratios for purposes of performance enhancing drugs tests like in the Olympics. So at least this article seems to suggest that you can take it without having like a failed drug test. At least that's what these guys say, and they're really smart, and I'll talk about their credentials. So this isn't something where you're just like, oh my God, I just want to get better in the background, and so I'm going to take Tongkat Ali. No, this is for your ordinary physical health to have optimal testosterone functioning. And so this particular clinical study, and I'll get to the results at the end of this podcast, so you got to listen to the whole damn thing, looks at, it's a meta-analysis. And for those of you who don't know what a meta-analysis is, it is an analysis of studies looking at the efficacy of Tongkat Ali as the sole intervention relating to its impact on serum testosterone levels for men. As far as I can tell, they did not look at the question of testosterone in women. And so these were 9 studies. And 5 of those studies were randomized, controlled, double blind. And of those 5, 4 of them were randomized, controlled, double-blind studies, which is the absolute gold standard for peer-reviewed literature. So these are good studies by reputable journals, and it's by Medicina. And Lithuania, I mean, they're part of NATO. They're really smart. And in terms of credentials, 2 out of the 4 authors are from Tulane University in the Department of Urology, the one in New Orleans. So that's a legit university. The other one is researcher is out of University of, I think, the South African School of Natural Medicine, the Faculty of Community and Health Sciences in Belleville, which is legit. South Africa has good universities. And Renata Finelli is from some clinical institute in London. So these are some high-powered researchers that are looking at this. And they're not, and also they're not funded by anyone. So they're not like, Tongkat Ali salespeople just trying to gin up business. So they look at this. And before I get into this, the question is, and here I'm going to do a little rant on doctors, because so often with allopathic medicine, and this would be the MDs, I'm going to give you a little bit of a hard time, but then I'm gonna support you. As their first level of intervention, it seems like so often they don't go into. I don't know what your experience is, but so often with doctors related to like supplements, like Tongkat Ali or Long Jack, it's called. They're like, well, you can take it, but it's kind of just it's a supplement. It might help. You might have a little bit of a placebo effect, and take it if you want. It's probably not going to help. It's not probably going to hurt. But here are the real drugs, like the ones you have to actually prescribe to get. Those are the good ones. Those are the good ones you have to be an MD to be able to get. And they may know that losing weight is helpful for a lot of these conditions. They may know that exercise, lifting weights as prescriptions, but they're just too damn busy. They have professional standards they have to uphold. And so as it relates to testosterone, if you have low testosterone levels, there is something that is clinically indicated, as far as I can tell, which is testosterone replacement therapy. So a lot of you are like, oh my God, why would I ever take Tongkat Ali when I can have a doctor stick testosterone in my ass and get it done properly, and a doctor's going to do it, and it's going to be more effective. But here's the deal with this, and this is what is highlighted. So I'll give you the first significant conclusion from this study, is they basically report no adverse clinical outcomes associated with the use of all 9 studies. Not one reported adverse clinical outcomes from the use of this medicinal supplement, which essentially is just a root, I believe found in Malaysia, which is significant, because I'll also get into the results in terms of the outcome, in terms of increasing your serum testosterone levels, in terms of how damn effective it is by taking Tongkat Ali. And I'm not a Tongkat Ali salesman. I could give a shit. I'm going to put a link below. And if you click the link, I'll get like 2 cents from Amazon. So I'm not going to get rich out of this stuff. And they have no connection to me, but I just want to share this with you, because I think this is incredible information related to this. But look at the side effects that they talk about associated with traditional testosterone replacement therapy in terms of the side effects that are present. And here's what the study authors say. So in terms of deciding what you should do, and I'm gonna support you doctors, so don't get your panties all in the bundle at this point yet. But here's what they said. They said some of the studies included in our analysis reported no or minimal side effects after E-longfolia treatment, which is Tongkat Ali. This is of interest, they say, because TRT, which is testosterone replacement therapy, representing the first therapeutic option in the case of hypogonadism, has been associated with the presence of side effects. And I'll probably not pronounce this right. Polycythemia, which is your blood gets thicker and it's a huge clotting risk, fluid retention, testicular atrophy, prostate enlargement, congestive heart failure, and obstructive sleep apnea. So Furthermore, they say in males and females, elongofolia does not negatively affect body weight, further supporting safe treatment with elongofolia, which is Tongkat Ali. Therefore, each elongofolia extract may represent a promisingly safe treatment option for hypogonadism. I'm always chuckle a little bit. Hypogonadism. Imagine the engineer high and say, like, oh my God, you have hypogonadism. Well, no, seriously, it's not a big deal. Your balls are the regular size. You just stop producing enough testosterone. So this is where I get into, notice what they say as a first therapeutic option. So often I think with medicine, whether it's type 2 diabetes, whether it's high blood pressure, all of these things. Like, have you ever watched like CBS Sunday Morning and then see these advertisements for like blood sugar management? They talk about, oh my gosh, you can solve all your type 2 diabetes with this pill. And then they talk about the side effects. And it's like, the side effects are you'll vomit, you can die, you're going to lose your hair, your balls are going to fall off, like all of this stuff. And I'm like, oh my God, this is like, sounds really dangerous. And the benefits, yeah, they have to go through in order to get authorized by the FDA. I mean, they have to show some clinical efficacy, but you're constantly with these man-made creations, always kind of thinking about, okay, I might benefit over here, but what are the side effects going to be? And what am I going to have to deal with? That's why doctors, for the non-acute medical conditions, anxiety, depression, which I know can be acute, they need to look at as a first level of intervention rather than just sort of pushing pills, these naturopathic. And I think the nice thing with the peer-reviewed studies now, doctors, whether it's keto, whether it's fasting, whether it's meditation, there's now a lot more peer-reviewed research to back this stuff up. And especially at the first level of intervention, if you're considering testosterone replacement therapy, consider Tongkat Ali first. Obviously, talk to your doctor, but they're probably just going to tell you, the question to ask your doctor is if I don't do testosterone replacement therapy right now, is anything bad going to happen to me immediately, right? That's the fear. I mean, it's one thing if you go in and you're like, oh my God, doctor, I'm having a super bad chest pain. Should I try this naturopathic intervention? Well, I mean, just use your common sense. Yeah, I mean, there are certain things that the conventional medicine does exceedingly well. But if there's something that's going to be, like where it's not going to immediately happen, like you're talking about your obesity, these are long-term risks, ones that you'll have some time to be able to evaluate. Consider options like this because, among other things, it's cheap. You're wasting your money. This is like 20 bucks. And I'm also in the show notes going to give you the link to the Tongkat Ali that they actually studied in these various things. So you talk about no side effects in Tongkat Ali. So that's kind of the baseline. So what are the outcomes? And here, this is just spectacular. In 7 of 9 studies that were done here, and these are gold standard, legit studies, 7 of those contained significant improvements in serum testosterone levels that were clinically significant. A couple of them did not, so it was not universal, but that's so 7 out of the 9 studies showed significant improvement in Tongkat Ali. None of them reported any adverse side effects. And so they're pretty much saying, and they can't, researchers have to, because they're really smart, they can't sound like salespeople. But in terms of the outcomes of this, and this is August of 22, they basically say that, quote, this systemic review highlights the beneficial use of elongofolia, that's Tongkat Ali, supplementation to enhance testosterone levels, particularly in men suffering from hypogonadism. But keep in mind that it also looked at healthy men that have normal testosterone levels to kind of optimize that. So it's one thing to say you're kind of below average, but even if you're average, you do want, high levels of testosterone for purposes of muscle building, your libido, your sperm quality. They're also, I'm not trying to conceive right now because I'm too damn old, but they also say that it has an impact in terms of semen volume, sperm concentration, and motilities after 90 days. alongside improved serum testosterone levels compared to placebo. They also describe improved erection hardness, aging male symptom scale, and sexual health inventory as per the diaries of men, suggesting it's possible to use for male infertility, as well as erectile dysfunction. And it's a natural supplement, $20. They report no adverse clinical outcomes, and they just had spectacular results. The other thing that it did too is that it also inhibited the production of aromatase. And you're like, well, why the hell do I care about that? Well, the issue with that is if you have excess aromatase production, what will happen is that it will limit the conversion of testosterone to estrogen. So not only does it enhance production or allow your body to naturally produce testosterone more effectively, that is endogenously, it also limits the conversion and the inhibition of aromatase, which in excess will convert testosterone to estrogen. You know, one thing that does this, I'm never going to completely give up beer, but you know how you dudes get like man boobs when they're drinking too much beer? And that's in part because that it increases aromatase, which then helps convert it to excess estrogen in your body. And if you're a dude, you're going to have some estrogen, but if you start getting too much, you get man boobs. And who the hell wants that, especially if you're a dude? You do not want too much estrogen because you're a dude. You want testosterone. So in conclusion, they were pretty much over the moon supporting them. They didn't. Now they're kind of limited in what they can say, but there's basically not even any cautions here. They say that in conclusion, this systemic analysis of the literature highlights the possible use of E. longifolia supplementation for enhancing testosterone production. Although more research is required before its use in clinical practice, this may represent a safe and promising therapeutic option, particularly for patients with hypogonadism. There was no external funding for this. This is done by the researchers themselves. They identified no conflict of interest, so they don't make more. They're just interested in knowledge. And believe it or not, there are some people that just care about that. Now, my connection, in terms of Tongkat Ali, I don't use it all the time. I think with anything, a general rule of thumb, whether it's fasting, lifting weights, running, like there was one friend of mine on Facebook that was like, oh my God, I run like 10 miles a day. And she was starting to look super skinny. And I'm like, you shouldn't. Everything has to be periodized. So I think, if you're looking at Tongkat Ali, try for 30 days, how you feel. Now you're going to have to work out. You're going to have to change your diet. Some of you are looking for a quick fix. You're not going to have big, huge man boobs and be super fat and then take Tongkat Ali and then instantly change your life. But I think if you're looking to sort of on top of everything else, that you're eating 3 healthy meals, 2 meals a day, you're occasionally fasting, you're getting your rest, you're eliminating junk food and processed foods, and then you are working out 3 to 4 times a week, try to get in what you can. And if you add Tongkat Ali, you're going to do really well. And so far, we have the science here. My previous episode was just on me as an anecdote. I shared a few peer-reviewed studies, but it was just a total anecdote, which I'm going to do another podcast on the power of anecdote and my skepticism of some forms of peer-reviewed research. Yeah, I'm going to come out as anti-science, but it's going to be more nuanced than that. Before you guys get all outraged and say, oh my God, this guy's a total lunatic. He doesn't support, I support science. But we'll clarify that in separate episodes. And so this is basically the research on Tongkat Ali. And among other things, I just kind of like saying Tongkat Ali. Doesn't he sound cool? I'm not very cool, so like if you have like a friend named like Grover or like Gomer, and he's like, oh my God, I just feel like I just don't feel very strong, and I kind of lost, I'm just kind of down and blah blah blah. You can say it's all right, Grover. Try Tongkat Ali, and you can say that and just see and it's just like $20 on Amazon. So what the hell do you have to lose? and it's surprisingly effective. I think circling back, and then I'm going to conclude this episode of the rocknecast, that it's not that I'm against allopathic medicine. It's based upon the scientific method, peer-reviewed evidence, observation experiment, coupled with peer-reviewed research. Although because of the financial piece of it in this country, it's extremely difficult to untether what really works and what doesn't. And a lot of the stuff that's best for your health is completely free, like sunlight, like walking outside, like fasting. This is $20 for Tongkat Ali. Go to Walmart and just shop the outside of a Walmart grocery aisle. Those are the best things for you. And a lot of the expensive drugs, you feel like you're getting something, like our culture has trained us to pay money for something as if that's somehow going to be like more beneficial. And a lot of you are like, oh my God, I'm going to do whatever my doctor tells me. Well, doctors are so damn busy. And the doctors, here's the thing, is they cannot deviate from the standard of care, right? All of this stuff and all of their training has been related to what they learned in medical school. And there are people that then went through the medical school and then they learn from them. And so they are really smart people. Stuff does change and they do look at innovation, but a doctor cannot freelance this stuff. And the other thing in defense of them is that they are just assumed that people are going to be non-compliant. So kind of why even recommend a lifestyle change if they know that their patients aren't going to do it? So there are reasons for that. And then finally, like my thought is I'm not against it, but I just think some of these alternative treatments, I think as a first step, can be incredibly effective prior to this more significant step. So for example, even, like I have various man crushes. One is on, what's his name? Andrew Fang. It's not Andrew Fang. It's like Dr. Wang or something like that. The fasting guy. Dr. Jason Fung is his name. And he's even done this with fasting and cancer. So, I mean, it does get very difficult for them to make a recommendation because if they form a clinical relationship with you, they talk about some of these very serious medical conditions, and they're recommending fasting, the person's non-compliant and they die, their ass gets sued by trial lawyers who don't give a shit about innovation. And the next time you hear a trial lawyer, I mean, I'm a lawyer by training, but these medical malpractice, it's kind of rough. And so they don't really care about that stuff. And I think it's just one of those things where you just have to be very careful before they make any sorts of recommendations related to that. And I think that's just something that all of us have to consider in terms of these various treatments. But the good news is because of studies like this, I mean, this is a meta-analysis, peer-reviewed journals, 9 different studies. There is now this alternative embrace, or at least what allopathic medicine embrace of alternative treatments that I think gives us hope that there's a lot of effective treatments out there that don't necessarily cost $1 gazillion, and it's just basically knowledge. So reach out to me, rocknecole@gmail.com or rocknecast@gmail.com if you decide to try Tongkat Ali. Now, this particular Tongkat Ali, they recommend 1,200 milligrams a day. And the protocol, by the way, that was used in all these studies ranged from 100 to 600 milligrams from a minimum of 3 days up to 6 months. So it kind of is what it is as far as that goes. The study talks about 1 to 12% of men, especially in middle age, have hypogonadism. So if you're either one of the 10 that has this, or even if you have optimal levels, it's still good to consider that. You might want to try Tongkat Ali. Reach out to me and let me know how it went for you. I'd love to share your results and interview you about the efficacy of Tongkat Ali. So infinite gratitude to all of you. Every time I listen to a podcast, I think there's so many different outcomes and there's so much different quality content out here. And the fact that you spent this long with me means a lot to me. And I have a ton of gratitude to you. Please give me positive reviews on Apple, Spotify, and all places where podcasts are heard. Share this with a friend. If nothing else, you get to talk about Tongkat Ali, and you'll get to, share the wisdom that hopefully you've learned. My goal is to get you in a lot of these things, especially as it relates to health, because I'm not a doctor, to get you to think about some of this stuff, to talk to your doctor about these, to make some of these informed conversations so that you can improve your health, improve your life, and then enhance your life in mind, body, and spirit. So we're going to continue to do a lot of health related things that I'm learning on the rocknecast. But you know me, even though I get most of my views on Tongkat Ali, I'm going to do everything. I'm going to do stuff on U.S. Grant, and I'm going to do little travel logs on local places that you should see if you're ever in Northeast Iowa. Basically everything, because I'm interested in. I am going to do a rant on Joe Biden at one point too. Why all these guys who in our establishment are totally incompetent. So it's going to be pretty much everything that we're going to cover. I'm breaking the rules. You're supposed to be like, oh my God, you got to have a super narrow focus. You got to like, and that probably is right with your algorithms. Like, but I don't want to do just a Tongkat Ali podcast. I'm going to do a lot of stuff on Tongkat Ali because clearly you guys are interested in it. But we're going to cover, as I said in my very first podcast, whatever the hell I find it interesting. And if you don't like it, you can go listen to some other podcast. But I am glad that you stayed here so far. So thank you to each and every one of you. I'm out. And until next time on the Rocknecast.